Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. I'm your host, Derek Vickers. On the MHP Show, we're talking about mobile home parks, operations. We're talking about buying deals, finding deals, acquiring. I think I just said the same thing 3 times in a different way. But we talk about anything and everything that has to do with this business and the interesting parts of it. You can see I got my mustache back. Maybe for this is just a 1 day thing. Maybe it'll be 2. Who knows? But look, before we get started on today's show, it's just going to be me today. Look, if you want to take a look at what we're doing at Victory Capital and you have money sitting on the sidelines, I'd love to help you and show you what we're doing and how we're helping everyday investors achieve outside returns through the most recession-resistant asset class on the planet. Because when you look at some of the fundamentals of multifamily and other asset classes, a lot of the risk associated with multifamily, it's oversupply, which is a big thing that's happening right now. We don't really have that because our supply is actually shrinking. And not to get off on a tangent on that, but look, if you have money sitting on the sidelines, I'd love to talk to you about what we're doing at Victory Capital. Or if you have interest in the space and you just like, hey, I want to make an allocation to manufactured housing, I would love to chat with you. You can chat with someone on our team. You can reach out to me at derek@victorycapital.com, or you can go to invest@victorycapital.com and check us out, or reach out to me on social media. Now, today's episode is, I'm always like, what the hell am I going to talk about on here? And a lot of days I don't know until I'd like come up here and I'm like, hey, I'm going to record the podcast. So today I've been thinking about this and I'm like, I've been thinking lately, like, what business are we really in? Right? Most people say we're in real estate, mobile home parks, we raise capital, we do value add, we build back utilities, we sell homes, but the more that I look at this and the more that I realize this is that that's not really the business that we're in at all. Like, it's not. It's not. I really think we're actually in the business of solving problems. And I know it's like, oh yeah, wow, like of course. But that's the business that we're in, right? Really, I mean, every dollar that we gain for our investors and ourselves, it comes from solving a problem. Right? You don't get paid because you own real estate, really. I mean, you kind of do. But a lot of times in these assets, like, you get paid to come in and solve a problem. You go in and you solve the problem that someone else couldn't, or they were too lazy to solve. That would be the same thing as they couldn't solve it because maybe they thought it was too much work. The mom and pop seller, they weren't able to extract all the value out of a property. And the problem for them is like, hey, they might be able to do it, or they don't think they can do it. They may not know that they can do it. And you're maybe the one that's willing to go in and roll up their sleeves and solve that problem. Maybe there's an infrastructure issue and the seller's just throwing up their hands and they're like, oh my God, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. Let's sell. Hey, you're going to go in and solve that problem. So we have a deal under contract now. There's a big septic issue there. And seller doesn't really want to solve that problem. I'm not sure I want to solve that problem. No, it's a good deal. But we're going to go in and solve that problem and we're going to get paid for it. Right? So we're going in and solving that problem. Right? Sellers have problems all the time. Maybe code enforcement's after them, or the health department's trying to shut them down, or whatever it is. Like, we can go in and solve that problem. And a lot of times the sellers think the problems are bigger than they actually are, because I've dealt with a ton of problems on these things. And, it's funny because the first time you always solve a problem, it always seems more difficult than it is. And then the next time the problem comes up, it's like, whatever. Right? But sellers have problems all the time. We can come up here and just, think of them ad nauseum. We bought a property 5 years ago where the seller had basically seller financed it to a guy who had basically run the property into the ground. Right, he ran the property into the ground. He was taking the money, raised money from investors, didn't give the investors his money back. So then he had the seller had to foreclose back on the property, and the seller was left with a much worse product than he was given, than he had initially sold to the guy. So he had a big problem. He couldn't go in and turn it around. He didn't want to. He wasn't local. I think he actually lived in a different country, to be honest with you. So we were like, yeah, we'll take on that problem. We went in and solved it, and we did really well. And another problem we solve, like in conjunction with that, is we help solve affordable housing. I mean, just go look at the rents. Go look at the rents. It's hard to find affordable housing in a good market. Let's look at this. If you go to apartments.com, here's something in Tampa. 2-bedroom, 1,500, 1-bedroom, 1,800, 1,800, 2,200, 1,600, 2,400, 2,000, 2,400, 1,700. I mean, it's not cheap to live, right? And rents have actually went down in Tampa. Right, so that's a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money to be paying in rent, and we actually offer an affordable option, outside of that. Not only do we offer an affordable option, we offer a better product, so we're solving that problem because you get your own yard, you get your own place, nobody's gonna be banging on the walls. I lived in an apartment one time, and the guy next door used to jam music just about every night, and it was doom, 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 doom on the walls. I didn't like that. So in my opinion, we offer a better product to our residents than even apartments can offer. Now, we don't have pools, we don't have workspaces, right? But people at least have their own home, they have their own yard. They can enjoy that and have more of a level of privacy, really, than they would in an apartment. Other problems that we solve is that investors need a place to place their capital and grow their wealth. You could place your money in a high yield savings account. You get about 4.5%. You can buy treasuries, which you're going to get between 4 and 5%, maybe on that. To me, that doesn't even keep up with inflation. I think CPI is maybe at 2 or 3% right now. Now, that's what they tell you, right? But I think real inflation is actually higher than that. So that's not even necessarily keeping up with inflation, because if you believe CPI, like, come on, you got to know that it's higher than that. And let's just say it's 7, 8, 9% is what real inflation is, and so your dollars are losing money, and you're just kind of combating it in a high yield savings account. But our investment, our fund investment, even if it doesn't perform that well, I think we'll hit a 15 IRR over 5 years, which is going to outperform inflation and the market. But if we do well, we can get a lot higher than that. Right? And that helps people preserve their wealth. It basically arrests the inflation decline of the value of your dollar, and it's not sitting on the sideline. And plus, you invest money, it's not sitting there anymore, and you have to go make more, which is another, I think, which is another benefit of getting your money off the sidelines. So that's another problem, right, that you're solving for people. Another problem, banks, they need reliable borrowers, which we do. So we help them solve that problem. The cities and the municipalities need safer communities, which we go in and solve that. Perfect example. I drove through a deal yesterday. Lot rent's like $250 in Florida. So you can imagine what this park looks like and what's in there. And there was people smoking pot outside, and it just didn't look like the safest place that you wanted to be. Probably, I doubt there's nothing illegal going on there. I'm sure everything is all above board. But look, and I'm not sure. I know that this park is like the city probably looks at this as the armpit of the community because it sort of is. I mean, it's a mess. It's a disaster. You can tell the guy does nothing, right? So we actually can go in and clean that up and make it a clean and safe place to live. And we help solve a problem for the community in the city. Um, our staff needs effective leadership. There's another problem that we solve, right? And so money follows all these problems, right? So if you're not solving problems, you're not creating, value for you and your investors, right? And look, the bigger problems that you're able to solve, that's the bigger businesses. Like look at Elon Musk, like he's, a trillionaire now, and he solved big problems. He basically is the largest electric vehicle provider on planet Earth. He's figured out how to privatize the space industry. Those are big freaking problems, dude, and you're getting paid for big problems. Like if you're only willing to take on $100 problem, you're gonna make $100. Like what's an example of $100 problem? I don't know. Like maybe I need my coffee from the coffee shop. Maybe that's a small. Actually, that's a big problem if Derek needs his coffee. But you get the point. You know, smaller problems are, not going to yield you as much income. So if you're willing to solve, $100 problems, you're going to get small rewards. If you're willing to solve million, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, even $1 billion problems like Elon Musk did, or $1 trillion problems at that point, right? And if you're solving bigger problems, your business is going to get much larger. Like your mobile home park business is going to get larger if you're solving bigger problems. Like if you're providing a permanent capital vehicle to an institution or a family office, that's a big problem you're solving, right? For them, because their problem is that they have so much money, they need something to put it in that's safe, that produces a return, and they have confidence that over time they're going to continue to grow their wealth. And that is a huge problem. So if you solve that problem, you're going to make big money, right? And there's different levels to this, right? Like you buy one park, you're solving, those problems at that park. Like, hey, your business is gonna, you're gonna make some money, you're gonna be great. Managing 10 parks, raising a fund, managing employees, building systems. Each level comes with bigger problems. When you have more staff, you have more BS you have to deal with staff, right? And so you're solving bigger problems, but in return, like you're getting compensated for those problems. Although sometimes when we're solving problems, I'm like, man, dude, I don't know if we're getting paid enough for this. But as you grow in this business, you are going to have a different level of problems. One, and on your first park, you're going to be dealing with like, oh my God, how do we get the bills transferred? And it's more than I thought. Oh, we don't have titles. We're getting titles transferred. You're getting all this other bullshit on your in your universe that you didn't expect. But those are pretty small problems, right? And then you start building systems around that. When you're managing 10 parks, it's like, okay, I can't manage all these anymore, so I have another problem to solve. Like, how do I replace myself on the management, start hiring people, and blah blah blah. Raising a fund, you're going to have different problems. You're going to have different problems. You're going to have, dealing with the legal, finding your investors, making sure the legal docs line up, making sure you have good marketing materials for your fund. Right? There's a different set of problems that you're solving. And when you're raising a fund, you are collecting money from a larger pool of investors. So there's more investors that you have to satisfy. And there's more people that you're solving their financial problems for. Right. So it gets bigger. And then when you start building systems to solve these problems, it just sort of spirals, because then you start, new problems come up and then you just solve and solve and solve. Right? So don't fall into this trap. And I fell into this trap before. It's like, hey, we fall into the trap of like, hey, a lot of entrepreneurs spend their day like not wanting to tackle the tough problems. And if you look at it and the stuff I've studied about Elon Musk and Rockefeller and these guys, they dive into the problem. They run right toward the problem, right? Um, for example, here recently, um, we're going through an insurance renewal and we're trying to obviously get the best price and determine the risk. And it's like actually a longer process as we're looking at the documents and what this particular business interruption insurance covered. It's like, do we even really need this? So we had to read through the documents and read the fine print, which was really fun. And did I want to do that? No, I did not. I definitely did not. But it's going to save us, 60% on our insurance costs because we were able to figure out that actually the likeliness of this being paid was very, very low. So we didn't need to pay this extra premium for it. And sometimes I fall into this trap where I'm like, hey, let's just solve these things. They're quick and easy. But the difficult problem is the one that will handle and make you the most money. Like if you're trying to raise money from institutions and from institutions and family offices, and like you have to, it's a different beast than raising it from a retail investor because there's other things that they want to know. There's a ton of questions that they're going to ask you. They're going to, there's going to be a big due diligence process. You have to be ready for that. So you have to create the materials and things in order to make it an easy decision for them, right? Um, staffing issues, right? You got staff members that are underperforming. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to look at that because I don't want to have to, hire a new person. Well, you need to confront that problem because your operations are, the person that's pulling down the ship. You got people rowing, the rowing team. If the guy on the back left, maybe there's a specific rowing term for that particular position. I mean, it's going to screw up the whole thing. Like if everybody's paddling on the left, I would imagine the rower turns to the left if the one guy's not rowing on the right, or the other people have to work harder to keep it going in the same direction. Right. So that's a big one, I think, for people, especially in this business, because sometimes your on-site people, they're not the brightest. Let's be honest. And you have to direct them. You have to direct them in the right direction. If they're not rowing in the same direction, you have to confront that problem and get in there and get it out, right? Because the ship is going to move better. Um, another recent example is like we had a deal. It's just not financeable. Like, there's just no way the bank's going to do this. And we were fighting with them and like, hey, you can do this, but they're not. They're looking more at in place, not necessarily on pro forma. And so we had to figure out another solution, a seller financing solution. The seller didn't want to do that. We finally eventually convinced him that that's probably his best option. And we're getting that done. But it took a lot of back and forth, a bunch of conversations, because in the beginning, the seller was like, I'm not seller financing, so don't ask me. Right. But in this situation, we didn't need it. Right. So again, I wasn't, hey, I need to have seller financing. I went into the deal we're going to buy the deal. Right. And now it's going to work out that seller financing is actually the best option for him, best option for us. So look, that was a big problem we had to run in and confront and have some tough conversations. It wasn't necessarily that tough of a conversation. It's just like when this guy adamantly says he doesn't want to do seller financing, then you have to go in and give him the data when you like this deal and it's a great deal. And then also we had a backup plan. We're like, okay, how can we pay cash for this deal? But look, I think anybody listening to this can probably look at a situation where like, hey, when you leaned into solving it, your business has improved, right? Home sales. Um, it's been, with Facebook Marketplace kicking people off, and I'm sure everyone's dealt with that. Finding a solution that actually works and produces the same amount of leads as Facebook Marketplace has been hard for our operations team. And I don't think we've still perfected this problem, but we have definitely gotten better and the business has gotten better. Our park onboarding, right, has gotten better. We're always improving that, and making sure that that's, flawless. Because you don't want the water to go out after the first day, right? So look, why does this even matter? Like, am I even talking about mobile home parks? Like, why does this matter, right? In today's market, higher rates. Rates are going up, guys. Rates are going up. So all the sellers out there are like, hey, we're gonna wait till Warsh comes in and rates are gonna automatically go down to 2021. I mean, these like I knew that wasn't gonna happen. I wasn't even optimistic about when he came in. And you saw that the market the treasuries, the market got priced into rates going up. I mean, that the rates going up was sort of already priced in because the treasuries have gone from about 3.5 or something to, I don't know, I think the 5 years probably 4.2, the 10 years a little bit higher than that. But this matters in this type of environment. You have to be able to solve these big problems. Um, Higher operating costs now. Costs of things have just went up, right? Like all this stuff. Insurance is higher in some cases. We've seen some decreases in insurance. Um, those aren't reasons for you to be like, oh my God, the rates are higher and all this other crap. Like, let's just stop and we're not going to be able to buy anything. They're just simply the next set of problems to look at and for you to get creative in solving them because there's always a solution to the problem that the market will pay you to solve. And if you remember my last podcast, I talked about people getting out of the business, and this is where people are going to disappear. Companies are going to disappear. Operators are going to disappear. Um, and that'll mean that these, for operators, like those portfolios that disappear and the operators that disappear, those are going to get absorbed by someone else. So look, God, I do this all the time. Like even this morning, I'm bitching about something, and I'm like, it's like, I think about this and I'm like, man, like our business is growing right now pretty rapidly. And I always catch myself like, man, dude, can't we just get an easy day? Like, can we just have an easy day? And I catch myself thinking business was easier. Then I realized that, like, hey, if it became easy, someone else would do it. And that's the problem that I'm solving, right? Like the difficulty in that's the opportunity. And that's how you know that you're growing and your business is growing. So if you're just feet propped up on the table, laying back, like, yeah, you might be in a good spot, but like maybe you're at a point where you don't want to grow anymore. I'm not there yet. I still want to continue to grow because that's what I like to do. That's when I feel like I'm winning. So that's where the opportunity is in the difficulty. And now with prices going up and rates going up, there's bigger problems. Like it's not just, 2020 and 2021 where you could just go buy anything and you could figure out how to make it work. Right? So these are bigger problems to solve, and these bigger problems to solve, some people are going to look at them and be like, "No, I'm not doing it." Right? So there is opportunity now. If you can figure out how to make deals work and get creative, um you're going to be in a good position. You're going to be in a good position. And, I haven't completely done this yet, but it's like, hey, which problem in the business can I solve today? It's not necessarily like, hey, how do I make more money? Instead, I'm talking like, hey, what problem can I solve today? Which big problem, juicy problem can I solve that would really allow us to expand, for us to grow? Because I got to tell you, like every meaningful jump in our business has come from solving a big problem. The more I look at it, right? We solve big problems, right? We grew really fast in the beginning. We had some, operational hiccups that we had to go in and solve. And now we're able to buy properties and like there's no problem that could come that we can't handle operationally because we've sort of been through a lot. And it's funny, like even when problems come up now, I'm like, oh yeah, we've dealt with that before. Do this. Oh yeah, we did this wrong this time. Do this. Right. It's easier to come up with solutions because I know this business really well. And I've dealt with a lot of problems, handled them well, and handled some not so well. And I've just learned. I've just learned. And every problem that we solve is going to get the business to the next level. And as we grow and get to the next level, there's going to be bigger problems to solve. When we have 200 staff, um, there's going to be, probably a load of crap to solve. Right. And so, look, don't run away from the problems, run to them, and you're going to grow your business. Right. If your problem's not enough deals, go get some deals. If your problem's not enough capital, go figure out how to get bigger capital faster. If your problem is operations, what is the main thing? What's the biggest problem? Work on that. Make a list. Most important, least, and then just go down in order of importance and handle the most important one first. Because sometimes, like me, you get caught in handling problems because you get the dopamine hit of like, oh, I solved that small problem. But actually, the big problem is the one that moves the needle. And if you get used to those dopamine hits from small problems. It's just like you handle small problems and then the big ones go left unsolved. And I'm guilty of this. That big problem never gets solved. If you just work steadily on that big problem and solved it, like bang, your business is going to change. So look, guys, run the problems. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching the MHP show. I wanted to do a little different episode today, a little different. And I like to talk about things that I'm going through and things that have helped me. So if you like that, please like and subscribe. Leave me a message or a comment. If you want to check out Victory Capital, you want to invest in mobile home parks, let me know, and would love to talk to you about that. And look, we're looking for high level people on our team as well in acquisitions, capital markets, capital raising. We're growing. And if you think you can add value to the Victory Capital team, we're always hiring for great people. Reach out to me on social media, LinkedIn, or whatever. And we will see you next time on the MHP show. Peace out.